what we're actually talking about. But this is what I do, Alex. I just message people at odd times and be like, hey, can you do the show? And then I just, bank on my charming personality and that you guys will do the show. And most of the time it works.
It was an on-day seduction is what it was. I was seduced by Jeremy and his DMing ways. That's what happened.
Yeah, happens a lot more than you'd think, honestly. It's a shame.
Yeah, it does. It really does. People seem to, for some reason, like me and want to hang out with us, Joseph. It's not just me. Like I assume they want to hang out with you too. Maybe I'm mistaken by that.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey everyone, Alex McCarthy is here.
Hey, what's going on? I haven't seen Joseph in forever, by the way. Where have you been?
Just in the shadow.
Just ducking and diving on Twitter and popping up with the occasional Eddie Kingston reference, and off you go.
It's just
on your
bad.
merry way.
Twitter's bad, Alex.
Yeah, it is. It's really bad.
I'm still trying to figure things out. Every time we talk, I tell you this. I'm figuring things out, pal. I don't know, but it'll be okay. I'm still doing these shows, apparently. So we have stuff to talk about tonight, though, guys.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's exciting. I like when we have stuff to talk about.
Let's start with
Wyndham is coming.
Yeah, Wyndham is coming.
I honestly thought we were going to have to sit here for an hour and just talk about Bray Wyatt, and that was like my worst nightmare. So I'm really glad Kevin made this decision when he did. I don't know how bad my connection is, so like you guys can carry,
strong.
But
it's good.
It's okay. Okay, cool.
Good from my end.
I've heard that the prize fighter Kevin Owens has re-signed with the World Wrestling Federation. I'm sure this was handled, nicely by everyone on Twitter. What is your initial reaction to this news, Alex McCarthy?
So just to make everyone non-believers in my ability, basically, I was completely 100% shocked. I was sold that he was going to AEW. Like there wasn't one part of me that believed he was going to stay at WWE. So if you want your scoops, come to me. I don't know. It's one of those where away from all the teasers, I felt like it was going to be an Adam Cole-esque scenario where he would just be like, you know what, I want to work with my friends. I want to go. We all know how close he is with the Bucks and Cole. Personally, right? So I just assumed he's had enough in WWE. Like he hasn't had a world title run in 4 years, or really been close outside of the Roman angle. So I thought, what's really left for Kevin Owens to do? They're not going to treat him like the main event player or anything like that. I still presume that be the case. Alas, they've made him a quote unquote excellent offer, and obviously, I was about to say he wants security for his family, but he's at the wrong place for that. But presumably for a select few of the top guys, it's not as cut and dry. So, yeah, I echo everything that everyone else is saying, like good for him and all of that malarkey. There was a part of me that would have liked to have seen the Genesis where John Moxley away from Dean Ambrose is a different animal. I reckon Kevin Steen probably would have been a different animal to Kevin Owens in AEW, perhaps. But alas, we didn't get it. So still, I'm happy from a WWE perspective. They've got to be happy to stem the blood flow, as it were, because free agent after free agent was saying, you know what? I think there's better grass, greener grass. Kevin Owens seems to be the first to deny that.
Indeed, Jeremy. Initial reaction?
He secured the bag, I assume, based on an excellent offer, which I ain't never gonna knock anybody for securing the bag. Bless. WWE can cut somebody at any time, but if that happens, he could easily walk to AEW. So he's gonna get his money while he can, and if he does end up getting released, it'll be fine. If he doesn't end up getting released, then he's got the money long term for however long he ended up signing. So good on him. Secured the bag.
The one part that Alex mentioned that I think we're allowed to talk about, right? Because we all get scared when this stuff happens. And we rightly lead with, good for him. And I agree with that. I share that sentiment. The one thing that makes Kevin slightly unique to me is as a fan of his. I'm not like a super fan, but obviously we all like Kevin Owens, right? He's great. I must admit, I have no clue what's left for him to do there. And I don't know what the scenario is because the only thing that's really left is him to be the top babyface on a brand. And I don't think we're ever getting that. Because we've seen, you can kind of go more with the heel stuff and give him the belt, but in fear of being dismissive, is that a good decision? Putting the belt on KO and taking it off Big E? It doesn't seem like one to me. So I'm kind of torn on what the actual creative kind of options are for Kevin, but like, really who cares, right? If he's signed it, he's happy with it. So I will say, and I talked to Jeremy about a little bit off before we went on the air, I think this is an interesting moment in time. And I'm upset putting in the chat with this, and it's probably against my better judgment saying it publicly, but I'm going to say it. I would suggest it's good for wrestling that not every professional wrestler of any skill level is going to leave at the end of their contract, because while I think it's bad faith to say AEW shouldn't sign ex-WWE guys, there's only so many of these dudes that can steer to safety. And I think Kevin is one that he may never be the top guy in WWE, but like, he's a main event guy, right? Like, he's a player on the, they always have him factored in. I'm looking at the free agent pool, and I think AEW is going to add a bunch of those people. I don't think they can sustain just every dude's contract coming up and then bringing them over. Let's be honest, mate. WWE's cutting guys at a pretty brutal rate right now. Chat mentioned some names there of Keith Lee, Swerve, and Kyle O'Reilly and Gargano. These are just names they're in the free agent pool now. I'm sorry, but while it would be ideal to say they can just sign everyone, they can't. And it's probably better for wrestling that some dudes do stay there, and hopefully that product gets better. We'll talk about wrestling every day, and I think we could all benefit from that product being more interesting. And if it's going to be, Kevin Owens is a benefit to that. It's up to them to make that the case, but I think that's part of this conversation, right? Like, it maybe is kind of the elephant in the room, but like, we can't, there has to be some kind of balance here. It can't be a one-way street. I don't think. I don't know, Alex, where are you at on that whole topic?
No, I agree, but I mean, that's the thing. I know you love the term "fed dead," but if Kevin Owens had gone as well, like the pool of people I really enjoy of WWE has like drastically shrunk, because Bryan Danielson has forever been one of my favorite wrestlers, and I would have watched him wherever the hell he went. Adam Cole as well being another one who was part of the Exodus. And I had a tweet, maybe I think it was back in January, and it was like, how can Keith Lee, Andrade, and Aleister Black just be doing nothing? Because they just weren't on TV at the time. Obviously, we later learned that Keith Lee was sick, but the other two were just out, right? No plans. Yeah. So to see two of those now in AEW, Malachi Black probably thriving a little better than Andrade at this stage, but to see them actually doing some more interesting stuff elsewhere. People that I liked in WWE basically all went to AEW. And it's not to say that, obviously we all love Roman Reigns, etc., etc. But I mean, just some of those personal faves. If Kevin Owens had gone as well, like, wow, when does it end for WWE? Would have been my take on all that. And when did they actually start to grow concerned? Like, they must have been. So whatever offer they made Owens, I think is more about it partly obviously is what Owens is, the ability, the main eventer, he's got the equity with fans, all of that great stuff. But I think it partly is that too, being able to prove that they can actually retain somebody. Because if Gargano and O'Reilly go as well, and I'm not totally sure where they are, but a Twitch channel and a PWT's store is not a good sign for Gargano, unless he is just the king worker at the moment. Then like who can they realistically persuade to keep? Because the faith with the talents of the office, outside of a Roman, Seth, Becky, there's probably like 6-7 names, even Lesnar, right? Who are what you would call untouchable. The rest of them, when the contract's coming up, but they must be looking at half of their friends getting released, thinking, I don't know. So there's only a select few people of Kevin Owens' position, in my opinion, who could actually play the field the way he has done. Great for him. He's let it get close. A lot of us believing he would go. That's probably by design to get the best possible deal he could get from WWE. So I say fair play to him. It's good for WWE. And by the same token, I don't know immediately what you would have done with Kevin Owens in AEW. And the only reason I say that is I saw in the report that from Fightful, of course, that sources backstage didn't think that they could have matched what WWE paid them. Now, presumably, they could and would have if CM Punk never came back, or if Bryan Danielson never went over. But the position they're in, do you think AEW are thinking we need to splash? Like, because his downside guarantee is going to have to be millions.
Yes.
At this point, AEW must be thinking, I just don't know if we can make that play right now. So I think it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, this is the thing that and listen, folks, watch wrestling however you want to watch it. I think people are still somewhat stuck in the mindset this is October 2019, and AEW needs to try and get it. I'm looking at these two rosters right now, and I am not fully of the belief that Kevin's ceiling is higher in AEW than WWE. I think he could tell more compelling stories, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not rushing to see Kevin Steen as AEW champ. I think they have a lot of guys lining up for that already that need to get that belt, and that's 2-3 years down the line you're looking, and if you get that far into it, how old's Kevin then? The whole thing. I think people need to adjust. You mentioned Andrade there. This is going to be a full circle moment here. Alex, I did Wrestling Daily with you, how long, 6 months ago maybe? Completely different landscape, right? And we were talking about Andrade, and I said to you, as a top heel, who do you take before Andrade in terms of big ball, right? Since then, they've had Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, and CM Punk. Andrade is better in AEW than WWE because he wasn't getting booked on the other place, which is bonkers. But let's be honest, right now, Andrade is an upper mid-card guy in AEW, and that's fine. How much higher he climbs than that, I'm unsure, because quite frankly, this is just the way that roster's really good. And you could argue, frankly, it's the best roster and it's better than WWE. I mean, 2 years ago, telling me that would have blown my mind. But a lot has changed. And again, maybe people do get and they just like Kevin Owens, and I like him too. So I get if you wanted to see him elsewhere. But the idea that Kevin was going to come in and win the belt in 3 months and have a year reign, that's not the AEW that was waiting for him, man. They've got a lot of guys that need to be served first. And again, it's bad faith to say don't hire ex-WWE guys. That's dumb. You hire great wrestlers. But there is truth to there's only so many mouths you can feed. And I think they're already getting close to that point. And Kevin's a top player. You have to, Jeremy, we talked about this a little bit beforehand. You can kind of expand on that. But it is a topic I think people are kind of missing out on a little bit.
Yeah, so Riley Walker, and this will lead into my point. Riley says, with Owens resigning, I feel like it makes the whole potential Undisputed Era reunion, elite fantasy booking stuff much easier to sort out. And that was the big thing with him, is people thought he was going to come in, do Mount Rushmore stuff. Omega's gone. Owens could slot in with Cole. Omega comes back as kind of the top babyface, which still could happen. But that was the thing that everyone just booked for Owens Steen to do. And Joseph, you mentioned that you can tell he's going to tell more compelling stories in AEW, most likely. But there is a thing of, you signed Kevin Owens and the money they were probably going to have to give him, because WWE they clearly made a big offer. They were always going to make a big offer. The money you're going to have to give him, you got to treat this guy like he's a top guy. Right. And that's going to push people down the pecking order. People don't like to admit this, but these guys come in and look, CM Punk and Danielson, they're wrestling the younger guys. They're giving them some shine and everything, but it pushes guys down the pecking order. Look at a guy like Ricky Starks, who's wrestled 2 matches since he's been cleared since July. And, he gets on TV every now and again, but probably not as much as you thought he was going to get on TV when he came in and did join Team Taz and everything. And he looked like the next major player there. So Kevin Owens comes in. You got to treat that guy like he's an absolute top guy, because he kind of is. He's going to be aligned with the Bucks and Omega and stuff. So he's going to get plenty of TV time. That's going to take away from others. You want to bring in Shane Taylor, Keith Lee, Swerve Scott, all these guys, and you're cutting into TV time for these other guys who we all think is the future of AEW and even the present of AEW, the way they treat some of these guys. And they do a great job of rotating their roster and everything, but there are certainly guys who are already getting lost in that shuffle, who people I want this person pushed, and they just can't push all these guys. And if you're gonna, I was telling Joseph off the air, but a guy like Kyle O'Reilly coming in makes more sense than a guy like Kevin Owens coming in, because Owens got to be a top guy featured all the time. O'Reilly, you align him with Bobby Fish, you do some tag team matches.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you do some tag team matches. You have him do some singles matches if you need to, almost like a Dax Hardwood type. And that's just kind of what you do with a guy like Kyle O'Reilly. Kevin Owens, you got to do more with him, and that's going to take away from others. So look, I would have loved to see him in AEW. I definitely think the stories would have been better in AEW, but let's not act like he's not on WWE television all the time. He's a featured player no matter what. Is the stuff that he does always my cup of tea? Do I enjoy it? No, not. I love the Roman feud. Just when I talked about it last year, that match at TLC one of
he's
our
great.
favorite.
Yeah,
one of our favorite WWE matches last year. So like he does some good stuff in WWE, especially when he's working with the right people and everything. But he ain't starving. Obviously, monetarily not starving now, but he ain't starving when it comes to just like how much time he's getting
for sure.
on WWE television. He ain't lost in the shuffle there. He gets featured time. Could he be booked better? Could they do more compelling stuff with him? Things like that, sure. But that goes up and down the entire roster.
Absolutely. And look, Alex can speak to this, and I don't know where you're at on it as a topic, but I'm worried is the wrong word because it would indicate it's a flaw of AEW, which I don't really think it is. There's something slightly discomforting for me about this kind of sense that the AEW conversation always revolves around who's next jumping over. And I don't think that's actually a flaw of the product so much as it's the world we live in, and we're all guilty of this, right? Which we're talking and it's like Kevin Owens is awesome, but when you've just added Adam Cole, CM Punk, and Bryan Danielson, I think the audience, and I'm guilty of this. I'm sure people in the chat can, if they're honest, can agree. Like, it's a little bit odd to me how much of the conversation always kind of is about who's next, And I'll be honest, I think a big part of that, and this isn't me doing Fed Des, I just think it's the truth. I think a lot of that is that WWE is kind of bland right now. So people want the excitement to all be in one place. Does that make sense? Like they kind of want it to all, and that's a shame. And I hope it isn't that way forever. But I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot recently. Like, Kyle O'Reilly's awesome, but like the idea that people have spent all of today getting excited for Kyle O'Reilly while Bryan Danielson's about to wrestle Hangman Page is kind of bonkers to me. I haven't quite got comfortable with that. Alex, what's your read on that? Is that just like us kind of just filling with content all the time and making everyone go crazy? What do you think?
Well, no, I think Tony Khan's kind of cultivated that idea, right? Because he's kept his, and this is not a knock because I love exciting wrestling. Can't guess what's next and all that stuff. But he's very much done that. He's created a landscape where in AEW, you don't quite know what's going to happen, be it debuts or New Japan arrivals and, TNT challengers and things like that. It's kind of the land of opportunity, and there's more room for excitement other than, distraction finish in WWE. We've opened the show with a promo. And it's very formulaic in WWE, whereas AEW, I find that nothing is routine, which I enjoy. The thing, again, a strength of AEW that kind of works for or against you is that Tony Khan is obviously very meticulous the way he books. He has things laid out long in advance. I know there are some variables in there, of course, if there are some opportunities to present it to you, i.e. CM Punk says he's going to come wrestle for you, you're going to shift some things around. But like the first 4 champions that he wanted, he got, right? He has some stories in play, and you see this in the way the shows are booked. Some stories that are, I don't know, let's say two or 3 stories at a time that are working. The rest he probably figures out on a monthly, weekly basis, right? Like Jericho, for instance, he knows what story he's in more often than not. Same as like a Moxley when there's Japanese stuff coming up. So when he signs someone like Miro, and we're sitting around going, why the fuck is he talking to, why is he being a gamer? And like everyone was kind of like, why is he with Kip Sabian? Right? Like everyone was, what? Why? And everyone's going crazy, like, Miro could do so much. And we were shouting the same things in WWE. But he was almost kind of waiting his turn because there wasn't anywhere else for him to get to. And bear in mind, he wasn't meant to be in the match he was in at Full Gear. So for Miro, like we finally got to see what he was all about towards the end of the Best Friends feud into the TNT title run. God's favorite, everyone started to go, yeah, this is the Miro I can get behind, the ass kicker and, just vengeful dude. But we had to wait. And I think it's going to be a lot of that with, if Keith Lee was to sign tomorrow. Malachi Black came in with the Cody feud, straight off the bat. But then it has kind of been, okay, what's next for him then? Right? So I think that's the thing with AEW. When Tony Khan's got so many plans and ideas for certain talents, and then you want to add the best talents, because there are some people on the market that can't miss, i.e., when Daniel Bryan Daniel Bryan's a free agent, he's willing to talk on the phone, you're not going to not sign Bryan Danielson. You're not going to not do that. And I think the same for Andrade and Malachi Black, particularly at the time, you wouldn't miss. You look at who they got today, Okay, you mentioned the free agent pool earlier. Gargano, O'Reilly. It was Kevin Owens.
Yeah, you got Keith Lee, Swerve. You got
Wyatt,
some names.
right?
The Ring of Honor guys too. There's a lot there too.
I'd also be thinking about Ember Moon.
Yes.
Like a Mia Yim, Jonathan Gresham. There's a lot of guys that you're looking at and you're thinking, okay, like, yeah, they're all amazing, but how do you plug them in? My general outlook is like too much talent is not a bad thing. But sometimes I guess it would become a detriment, right? Because you then don't have a working plan for everybody and you're trying to make everyone happy. And I'm assuming that becomes a very difficult task. The WWE is like the opposite. They work on a weekly basis. They basically look at the roster, and there'll be a few people on a show. They go, okay, what are we going to do with this person this week? They literally write it on a week-to-week basis, right? It's the complete opposite of AEW. So if you're a talent, it's two very different landscapes. But at the same time, it all depends on what you're happy with. And I think for Kevin Owens, you both said it perfectly. Realistically, and those discussions with Young Bucks, they'll say they didn't happen, but they would have. What was it going to look like for him over there? And then the money disparity, what did that look like? And if they can't make it work, then I think he's made the right decision. But in terms of who AEW pick up moving forward, Jeremy said it right. O'Reilly is a great addition in that kind of slot, right? You don't have to promise too much to Kyle O'Reilly, which sounds like I'm doing him a disservice. I'm not. He's obviously amazing. Right. Gargano, again, it's kind of like, if you haven't got like a story laid out for him, or I don't know, a stable or whatever, what are you going to do? TNT, that's going to push some more people down, as Jeremy correctly said earlier. He's directly coming into that kind of Darby Allin, Ricky Starks, that ballpark where he would operate, takes time away from someone else. So Tony Khan has to think really carefully about the composition of his roster at this point. I don't think he's made a bad move yet. Sean Spears, maybe. But I don't think he's made a bad move yet.
Sean Spears has carved out a nice role for himself.
I like Sean Spears. I mean, he hasn't done much, is my point. If we were saying of direct WWE signings, I'm talking about.
Okay.
Right? I think outside of that, I wouldn't say thus far he's got it wrong. So he has my faith for now.
I agree. I have there's a big topic that I've been kicking around a lot recently on these programs that we do every single day now for some reason. And Jeremy and I have been talking about it some. And I'm intrigued by this, okay? AEW is a very well-booked promotion. And generally, the philosophy, beyond some bigger arcs, like the ones you referenced, there is like a general way of doing it where Tony Khan basically is a great matchmaker and he finds an excuse to make guys have these matches, right? And that's where you see so many backstage attacks and like kind of throwaway angles. It's like, we'll book the match next week. Let's just give ourselves a reason to run this match. And I personally think in the modern age, that is genuinely like the play. People want the matches, man. And they want 10 minutes of it and they want to finish, more than 10 in some cases. I think the next big challenge for Tony Khan, and I'm intrigued on where you're at on this, Alex and Jeremy, we've talked about this, right? Like, I think the next big challenge for Tony Khan is the big angle. Yeah. The angle that throws the format out the window. And it's such a cliche. The NWO is the obvious example, right? Like that's the one that transformed everything and the show had to be reshaped accordingly. Do you think that angle exists, A, in the current AEW kind of landscape? B, what does it look like? C, does Tony Khan ever want to book it? Is my question to you, Alex, because I think this is a real topic. And it doesn't matter, right? If AEW had 1 million viewers forever, they're viable. And if this is the kind of wrestling he wants to produce, I love watching it, so I have no complaint. But I'm intrigued by what in 2021 or 2022, the kind of coming up here, what is the big angle? What does that look like? Or is it saying, we'll have to wait and see? What do you think?
I mean, first of all, I feel terrible about the Sean Spears now. I didn't realize how much people liked him.
We got a weird audience, man. Don't worry about it.
Somebody made a point about him training young kids, and I was like, and I was trying to listen to what you were saying, and I was like, that's a good point. Now I feel bad. I just meant in terms, anyway. In terms of like a big angle, I guess, coming out for AEW, and you look at the roster as it stands, obviously guys like CM Punk have different. He obviously hasn't had what he's really there for yet. MJF is probably the first window into that. But in this day and age of wrestling, what really is like a big transcendent game-changing angle. I would argue for WWE, Roman Reigns becoming the tribal chief was probably the biggest card they had up their sleeve they could think of, right? Outside of something incredible like The Rock saying, you know what, whatever, I'm going to have another year run. Like it wasn't just Roman turning heel either. It's the fact that he became the tribal chief. Like, imagine he just turned to a bad guy and he was cheating to win matches. Or he's like this cowardly heel. It wouldn't be the same. The tribal chief was it gave SmackDown that bump for a little while anyway. And it feels like that re-energized WWE in a way. But, if we're talking NWO levels of game-changing storylines, it's really hard because it's more to do. Even the NWO storyline, a lot of it is down to the fact of who was in the NWO, right? Let's not get it twisted. If it's nearly anyone else on the roster, it's not the same. But the fact that Hulk is the front man, like the unturnable Hulk Hogan, kind of makes that. So, like, in this day and age, who has that kind of impact? Only if you flip Cena or the previously unflippable Roman, as we discussed, did you get that kind of energy injected into the business. I don't know if AEW has that yet, in terms of like something that people are crying out for. It's just frankly pretty good creative. Like, I enjoy watching on a weekly basis where it makes sense and it's a cohesive show. Are they going to do something that's then going to skyrocket their ratings up to 1.5s and 2 millions or whatever? Before CM Punk come back, you would have said it was that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think the landscape of wrestling today versus something we're talking about that's 25 years old, Jesus, now, is different. So it's difficult with so much oversaturation and that to kind of go, oh, and you've got everybody hooked with something shocking. I really feel like if AEW just keep putting on the good product that they are, that's the best thing for them, rather than searching for something that's going to go, oh, they're never going to believe this, and then it's like a Raw Legends night. Like, you need to just be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, we saw TNA. They rolled the dice many a time on the big angle, right? And it never turned out too big. It didn't get many numbers. That Jeremy, I know we've discussed this, but can you do a formal pitch of the Ring of Honor invasion, please?
No, Joseph. I've rethought this. I'll tell you what it is, and it starts tonight, Joseph.
Okay.
Oh my word!
Is there a clip coming here?
No, it starts tonight. Do you see the corner?
Oh,
there?
okay. No, I never see what's happening on the screen.
Why is it in mine?
Why don't you check the screen?
I just don't. I shoot sometimes changes my name on here, and I never even see it. I'm very bad. Look, I'll be honest.
It starts tonight. Wyndham is coming. The Fiend. He's going to change the whole outlook of the promotion.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
People in the chat have mentioned the ROH invasion, and we kind of talked about, look, you ain't doing it with the guys that are
just do it. No, I would be in minute 55 of Danielson and Hangman, and I have the Briscoes jump the rail and burn an AEW flag to the ground in the middle of the ring, and Jonathan Gresham stands there with like a tracksuit on, crossed his arms, and like Taz, or something. I don't know, man. I mean, the truth is there is no big angle, right? Like Alex nailed it. You just have to keep just doing a good wrestling show and kind of try along.
I think we, we kind of talked about the big angle at Arthur Ashe. If it was like Danielson and Punk kind of coming in and winning the title and be like, I'm off 7 years. I've been in WWE all this time. And like, you just turn them into the two biggest heels.
We're going to get that. I think we're going to get Punk as a heel.
Oh, definitely.
Whether we put that in like an angle, though, where he has guys around him.
Right.
Time will tell. Punk's going to be the heel champ, I think. I'm pretty convinced of this. And that is a big angle, right? CM Punk turning heel and stealing the belt from a Hangman Page. Like, that's a big angle. What it does for business. At this point, I have no idea. Anyone could show up on these shows, and I assume the ratings will be exactly the same.
That's kind of where I'm at, is like, if CM Punk showed up, great. I mean, I think it was the biggest moment of the year, and it didn't lead to anything. Like, when it comes to viewership and stuff, like, it got a pop, but there was nothing sustainable to it. Like, there's just, Yeah, Alex is right. Just keep doing kind of consistent, good stuff, and I do think you gotta figure out sort of that next long arc, and maybe they're already telling it. We just don't see it as clear as we saw it with Hangman Page.
Yeah.
But they got to start working on sort of that next big arc that they're going to do, and it might be the elite stuff. Is that the next big angle? I don't think so. I mean, for their audience, that's a great angle, but like for us, is this going to transcend and get them over that hump? No, but it's going to continue to be great for their audience.
Yeah,
that's what they're focused on, though. Like they're focused on continuing to serve that audience, and they think that by doing that, more people will come.
That's fair.
And I'm not sure that's the wrong approach, honestly.
I agree.
I'd say an arc they've probably got in play is MJF. I assume him becoming champion is something that Khan has got in the foresight of his mind. If he'll be one of the next 2 champions. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the next one. In honesty, I don't know when it'll be, but I definitely could see it. And then, kind of bubbling away underneath that, when Wardlow finally flips, whenever this happens,
that's gonna pop Jack Crosby and nobody else. No one.
That's
cares
exactly what
about
I'm saying.
Wardlow.
That's what I'm saying. But they will want to make MJF, which in a wrestling landscape is, he's got his fan base or markers. But in terms of like what's going to take AEW to another level, I guess we need to get out of the mindset of if they grabbed Roman Reigns. You know what I mean? Like it's not that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's more just keep putting on a good show, because I feel like that's what's brought them to the dance. The fact that they've made these great additions has only kind of enhanced the excitement for me, rather than, I'm now going to watch AEW more.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it's more about the products. That's what Tony Khan should be, celebrated for, really.
I agree. And I would like to refute the claims in the chat that I'm hating on Adam Cole once again. I think building the promotion around another elite arc sounds like insane to me, but personally, I'm built different. I would also like to say, in terms of the ratings, and this is a serious note, folks, I just wish NXT and AEW would stop fighting on Wednesday nights, because if they went on separate nights, they would both be able to do so much better. Like Alex, if they was on separate nights, I think NXT would be doing like a 2.5.
Could you imagine?
I read, so I'm trying to stay off the Twitter, right? And I saw the NXT number. Bless NXT. I actually watched the show last night. I thought it was quite good. So I'm not hating. But they have lost 200,000 viewers in a year. And that was when they were battling AEW. And it's like, I read that and kind of, it took me back to those conversations we all had, right? Like, if they went their own way, everyone would be better for it. Not true, man. Like, being on its own night, NXT has just lost the buzz of being in a war. They're now just a show that airs on TV. And obviously there's other changes. We're aware of that. But yeah, I don't know. The rating stuff is, bless the people that really track it, because it seems very confusing to me, right? I don't actually understand any of the trends whatsoever.
What the fuck are fast nationals? Like, stuff like that. Like, what the hell? I have no idea.
I don't get the fast national stuff either. Like why are we using this as the metric? The final will come out in a couple of days. Just
wait.
Use that thing.
Just wait.
Just wait.
My favorite tweets. This is my favorite genre of tweet, is when people go, I don't care about the ratings, but here is my 12 tweet thread discussing the latest television ratings in professional wrestling. But I don't care about them. I'm not mad at all that Rampage did a 505 or SmackDown did a whatever. It's just all of that stuff. All of that stuff pops me. Now,
it makes me sad though. Like, that I was so, pretty much before they went on network TV, I was so Yellow and Black. Like, that was one of my favorite products.
That's fair.
Of like, the last decade maybe. It was probably my favorite brand. And then 2 hours network. Now here we are, 2.0. I've gone from an avid watcher to, like, if I have time. I don't go out of my way to watch it every week now. I've got to be honest.
It's a fascinating topic, man. I say it all the time on here because we do a show every day, apparently. I'm only saying this joke so much because Alex knows the grind, and I realize that I just do the same show every night, and people just apparently watch. It's just
regurgitate.
Places.
Yeah.
I will say, I really believe the NXT story, while it's being covered, I don't think people have fully grasped how big a change it's been. Finn was the champ of that brand this year, folks. That was not a decade ago. That was this year. We reviewed an NXT show together as a family. Remember Finn wrestled someone?
I love that family. Yeah.
You know, Samoa Joe came back and then left again, and then
he did one match.
What was that?
He did one match, and we never heard from him again.
I'm telling you, there's like we all talk about NXT's change, but it is a complete transformation. When Brian Alvarez first reported he was going to change, people on Twitter were like, "It'll be, it's gradual." It's not gradual, let me tell you. Like we're 4 months in the future here, and it's insane. I don't know. Where do you think? Because we've discussed this a lot, and I'm intrigued at it. Because I didn't like the USA Network stuff. In fact, I kind of fell out like mid 2018 personally. Before that, I loved NXT. Like it honestly is maybe my favorite product that I've watched in real time. When do you think? Why do you think it kind of fell apart, or is it a case of actually it was fine? It just got tampered with by the old folk upstairs,
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both of those. I mean, it's funny. Like when I've done interviews with the Bucks and Kenny, for that matter, and even Cody, actually, dickhead. Even all of them had good things to say about Triple H, which you wouldn't expect, I guess. But all of them was like, the negotiations we had. He sees the vision of the business in a similar way to us, and he tried really hard to make us happy. When you actually think about it, kind of what NXT was, and look at, I guess, Ring of Honor prior to AEW and what AEW represents, Triple H did kind of have a similar work rate, wrestler, vision, different dressing, I guess, but you could see the similarities in where they see the business going and what fans gravitated towards. And those atmospheres at those AEW shows now that we all revere is basically what the takeovers were, right? Takeovers had that magic as well. So I think what Triple H saw moving forward, which so many of us are now really enjoying with AEW, could be seen through that lens. Whereas Vince has a very, very different lens, right? And again, to piss off Jeremy, I spoke to Samoa Joe, and he said, in terms of recruitment, that it's like a direct edict from Vince McMahon, bigger, younger, and he was like, Samoa Joe was trying to give it all the WWE dress up, like, it never changes. Obviously, it does, but from what Triple H wanted and was putting through NXT, it wasn't what Vince wanted. As much as you and I might have gone, Keith Lee's a slam dunk on the main roster, isn't he? Or the multitude of others that slip through their fingers after coming up. Vince McMahon was like, but they're not what I want, which is big jack dudes who they can mold into whatever they want.
Yeah.
So I think NXT, the differential there is we love the brand and what it was, but it was never actually meant to be a brand that we loved. It was meant to be a filtering system for the main roster. And ultimately, the alignment was never there. Hence why we ended up getting what we got in the end. I think it's a shame that Vince couldn't open his mind to what Triple H did there, because some of those years of NXT are like genuine magic. Like NXT New York, I think 2019, New Orleans in 18.
Yep.
Unbelievable shows. Like quite literally among my favorite pay-per-views that I've ever watched. And I felt that Triple H really did craft something there. Okay, I say craft. He nabbed PWG and everyone else, but he did do something good.
Yeah, and you can say, look, here's the thing with Triple H. It's a complex legacy in a range of ways, right? Fair to say. As an executive, there is elements of him as an executive that we all kind of roll our eyes at. And, we'll never forget the image of him pointing at that map like he was in some sort of political party planning it was weird. It was a weird vibe, but I do think people go too far. And I think objectively he did a good job as booker of that brand, or, booker, whatever he did on that brand. He had flaws, every booker does, but I think there's evidence he burnt out before any of, I think the USA stuff really tested him in a way that he wasn't. That's a hard way to book, right? Because you suddenly you're doing 2 hours, and you're in a war, you can't really win, you're in this small building. Yeah, exactly, right? Because let's be honest, they had a very simple system before that. They would sit down after every takeover and plan out the next 5 matches, and they had 6 weeks TV to build, and they would tape it. That's, in a lot of ways, that's how professional wrestling should work. We've all lost our minds. We have to do 28 hours of live TV every week. It was great. It was a throwback. I think this is a great example of the folks at WWE just overcomplicating and trying to make everything this sort of elaborate scouting system. And I've been guilty of this, and I said this to Jeremy before. There was a time where in my fandom where I would look to the Undisputed Era and gone, no, you can't do it on the main roster. They're too small, or they're too this, or they're too that. And it's like, the truth is, man, I listen to the people when those dudes come out. Listen to Adam Cole's reaction. Every single place he's ever been, he gets a reaction.
Yep.
And you're going to get some great wrestlers that come through as football players. There always has been great wrestlers that have done that. I have no problem with that style of recruitment. But you have to listen sometimes. You know, you look at AEW right now, and it's like, John Silver is over huge. He would not even be looked at twice in WWE.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a cliche, but Eddie Kingston, he's another great example, right? Like, they would not see any money in Eddie Kingston. He's over.
They wanted him as a coach.
Right,
they wanted
exactly.
him, not even a
And
wrestler.
It's just difficult. I know, Jeremy, we talked about the Undisputed Era a little bit recently, right? Like, they're the perfect example of just overcomplicating it, going in circles. Just bring them up and put them over, man. They'll be fine, you know?
Yeah, I memean, everyone I think knows sort of my they should have just debuted after Mania, kicked the shit out of the champion, and they're established right off the bat.
Right.
It certainly is. I mean, look, Triple H handed Vince plenty of guys who got a reaction in NXT, and then just nothing happened with them on the main roster. He booked NXT great when it was just the format you talked about, Joseph, where you could just they binged book it and you could binge watch it from the takeover. And then once they went live, once they got into a war that they weren't going to win, that he started doing the same things WCW would just start doing, of just like, let's hotshot a bunch of stuff and just lose sight of actually, telling stories and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, WWE will certainly overcomplicate it. Just like, you can listen to the people and get the reaction and just whatever they say. Stephanie McMahon likes to say, we listen to the audience. It's like, man, the audience actively turns against a lot of this stuff, and it's not good. And it's why I don't bother watching a lot of it anymore. But I hope Ron Breaker does well. He seems cool. I like him.
I like him.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Seriously,
I like him very much.
He's a prodigy, man. I think he's like 14 matches into his career.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've been watching those 205 Live matches recently. I've seen Roderick Strong carry some dudes. They weren't carrying that brother last night. They had a real match. I mean, he's excellent. There's elements of him that worry me up there because everyone has to show range and be a, comedy character. And
they'll put a wig on him, and
but
yes, you're right though. Like, Vince won't see someone and be like, "Oh, look, the crowd love this person." Like, I don't know, he'd see an Orange Cassidy and just go, how can we make him ours? Like, it would be, he wouldn't be able to just take as is. Like, and that's the WWE kind of trope. They're so they're archaic of the way they think sometimes, man. Like, it's really weird how they. Well, it's not weird because Vince is old, but he just refuses to change his method of thinking. Like, he thinks, and I suppose quite rightly so, I'm a hell of a successful businessman. I know what people want. I know what works in professional wrestling, but I think Tony Khan is kind of that wave of evolution, if you like, where he's kind of come up through the glory period and he's seen what works, what doesn't work, very in touch with what's going on all the territories, where he can actually put it all together. I'm not saying he's like this megalo genius, but Vince has like got a one-track mind of like, I know what has worked for me for the longest time, and that's what he goes back to.
I firmly believe, and we're going all over the place here, folks, but let's be honest. How much
Winter's Cummins tonight?
Yeah, we know the match is going to be great. Let's leave it, right? Now, look, here's the thing. I firmly believe that whole thing started when they won the war, and then they started like fully doing, because that's in the mid 2000s is when they had the system of like 6-3 and over, 240 and up. And I think the worst thing that happened, hilariously, is that Cena and Batista actually fit their thing and worked. And they are convinced they can just keep churning out. And it's like, look, I think the world of Roman Reigns as a performer. And he's obviously, as a character, he's better than ever now. But he just wasn't the babyface to go with in the mid 2010s. Like, I can be a bigger fan of him than Seth Rollins, but at multiple points, Seth was more over. And you rolled that way. And Ambrose is the obvious. Like, he was Ambrose was really the guy, if we're being honest today,
Yeah.
right? But
Beloved.
they didn't want it to be him. And that's just, it's difficult. And obviously it's more it's more clear when there's an alternative on a national scale, makes it more obvious. But yeah, I think that's actually the timeline. I think The Rock kind of broke them in that they don't realize The Rock was a complete outlier, and you can't just be like, oh, this guy can talk, wrestle, has the best look in the history of wrestling, is the most charismatic guy ever. Great, you know. It's more complicated, and not everyone's going to fill the scouting report the way The Rock did. It's just, and Cena for that matter, you know.
But The Rock, I think it was more Cena than The Rock, and I say that because Roman, they just pushed babyface, and the crowd just wanted to reject him and boo him and everything. Rock, at least they were smart enough, like, all right, this young babyface, blue chipper thing just ain't working. At least they turned him heel, and then they got the most mileage out of that. Cena, go ahead, Alex.
No, I was about to say, I think it's only similarly, though, because Rock went away in 97 because he got injured, right? I think it was his groin or something. And only because he had that time away and was able to kind of then come back. Similarly to Roman. I don't know if Roman turns, if he doesn't actually go away. If he just goes to WrestleMania and beats Goldberg, I don't think we even get the tribal chief.
Right. But, I mean, they tried for 4 years trying to make Roman as the top babyface. They didn't put that much stock into The Rock before turning him. Cena was the one where it's like, oh, top babyface, this is the guy you want, Superman type of thing. Like, that's what they wanted to do with Cena. The problem, or with Roman, but they still screwed that up because they did think the crowd was rejecting him because they saw that. And so they didn't just fully pull the trigger and commit to him. It's just like, he's going to win. LOL, deal with it.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So arrogant. The year 97, right? Well, there was the big factor in 97 was they weren't winning. And let's be really honest about it. One of the great stars of that era is Mick Foley, right? An all-time great in anyone's book, one of the most versatile top guys ever, a genius, great professional wrestler. Do you really believe they pushed Mick Foley the way they pushed him in a world where there's not a war and they don't have to listen to the audience? Because I don't think there's a chance to, and that is not a slight on Mick, right? But people have to realize that kind of golden era of people getting over and being, rewarded with it. Well, they had to be because they were looking at the quarter hours and guys were going up in the ratings, and it was just a completely different time. And that's why, to me, that's where that arrogance, that's a great term for it. The arrogance is really palpable since the war, 20 years ago ended. And, guys like some of the dudes that run the locker room that thought they actually had fought a war out on the battlefield, like Bob Holly and JBL and all these,
I knew you was going to say both of those names.
Yeah, well, it's true, right? I mean, you hear the way they talk. And look, bless them, right? They would, they rallied the troops and they won the war, whatever that means, Bob Holly won the war. It's just, it's interesting. I do think, it's such a long time. If you look at WWF's history as like a major, the mainstream promotion, we're looking at how we 40 years almost we're coming up to. And that seems like an awful long time, but you can actually dissect era for era and look at the ups and the downs. There's a lot of comparisons to be made between now and the mid-90s, and it's a product that Vince is entertaining himself. I don't know if anyone else is having much fun with it. And it's kind of, I think sometimes people, they can't see the forest for the trees with that stuff. It wasn't, we're not looking at a promotion that was great until 2015 and then it got bad. Like, there's been lots of ups and downs and good and bad. And it's just, I don't know how we ended up here. Anyway, winter is coming.
Well, I was about to say, don't you think the metrics of what's good and bad as well from us three to WWE corporately are completely different, right? They look at what they are taking in from Saudi Arabia, Fox, and USA. And
absolutely.
Even Peacock's billions. Vince will think, by every account, I'm not calling him stupid or like one track mind, but he would have every right to say this is going pretty well. Like, from a business standpoint, we're doing good. But the reality of it is, we all know that the product itself, it's not thriving at all. In fact, it's stale. And they do have a talented roster, but it's obviously not being utilized the way that we all know that it could be. And I think you said it earlier, Joe. Having AEW now in town only serves to highlight that, where everyone's like, the energy and excitement we could be having, WWE just give you in, like, it's like I said, it's just a service basically at this point. So there you go.
I am intrigued by, and this is something that none of us, like, I bring it up often, but don't really know where I'm going with it, so I just give up. But I am intrigued by like what the WWE audience is, because I do think those of us that talk about wrestling and are in the bubble, and this is just my opinion, like I think sometimes we are a little bit dismissive of the idea that there are people that just like the show. I'm the worst for this, so this is not me pointing fingers. I am the absolute worst for this, but like he's the perfect example, and hilariously he lost his job, bless him. But Bray is the perfect example. Bray Wyatt, for the last like 2-3 years of his run, for me was I couldn't do it. Like I'll watch it to make fun of it with Jeremy, but I'm not, no way. There is an audience that only watches WWE and no other wrestling that didn't just like Bray Wyatt. They dissected the Firefly Funhouse segments. There are videos on YouTube of dudes dissecting that in front of hundreds of thousands of people, folks. They're out there. The example I always use is Alexa. To me, Alexa doing that stuff is like unfathomable. Like you would take her and do that with her. Did you see how many of those dolls they sold? See, they're out there. And look, I get that, I get the pop of 6-year-olds watch it, but like, I do think the product's clearly not hot. I'm looking at ticket sales. I know it's not red hot. What interests me is the road to making it hot, not what we think it is, which is like, we obviously would make traditional wrestling moves and we like certain guys, we should get pushed, but is there truth to the idea that actually the answer is WWE embracing the fact that they're entertainment? And they do stuff different to any other wrestling promotion. Are they ever going to be a better wrestling promotion than AEW? Probably not. They can do some weirdness, unlike anyone else. I'm intrigued by that, man. I went to the WWE show about, I guess, a month ago, and it was insane. Those people don't give a damn about who's jumped to AEW. They're just there to see the show, and I think sometimes we need to kind of realize they are trying to get a different audience. Whether they're doing a good job of it, we can discuss that in detail. But I don't know. What's your guys' kind of experience with that?
I think what you said there, and I'd love to like serve this to Jeremy, is you said, I don't think they could be a better wrestling promotion than AEW. I don't think they are.
Yeah.
I don't think they are. They don't look at themselves as a wrestling promotion, do they, Jeremy?
No, I mean they're sports entertainment, and trust me, we've had the conversation of like, you can lean into that stuff, but at the end of the day, like, you are doing wrestling matches, and I think a big thing that they don't do well is they just make so many people look stupid that you just can't get behind
100%.
any of 100%. That. And that's why, when it comes down to the wrestling matches, no one cares. And because that's such a large part of your show, it's tough to care. Do they serve a different audience than the stuff that we like? Yes, 100%. But there's also still clear evidence that audience is dwindling as well. So they got to somehow strike a balance of, all right, we gotta try to serve some hardcore fans and do good stuff when it comes to the wrestling. We can still kind of do our wacky stuff. Maybe it's not for everybody. Look, the stuff AEW does, not all of that is for everybody. They do some stupid stuff that is just like, all right, that's not for me. I'm just gonna ignore it. WWE is the same way. At least like the Alexa, the Fiend stuff. I guess they're trying to appeal to like kids and different genres with that stuff, but you still got to serve other people in the audience, and a lot of their stuff just ain't serving anybody.
I'm slightly fascinated. Sorry, I'm slightly fascinated by the idea that WWE is like habit viewing, right? Like in the sense that we've been kind of generational fans, and we've come over it from childhood. We inherently like pro wrestling as a result from whatever boom or hot period that made you fall in love with the business. I wonder, like 10, 15 years from now, are we going to have kids kind of being like, oh my God, like, do you remember the Hurt Business's run was great? Like, I don't know. Like, is there going to be some, like, that's not a shot at Hurt Business, by the way.
No, I get you. Yeah.
But like, it's just an indictment of the product. I wonder if that trend is going to slowly die because I don't know, feverishness for the product is decaying. I don't know. To me, that's interesting to think about.
It is for sure, and I want to be clear, and Jeremy's spot on, and you both are. Like, what I said a minute ago, I'm not saying they're good at being an entertainment company. I'll give you another example that fascinated me, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. Now, you may not remember this, folks, but about 8 months ago, Shane McMahon wrestled Braun Strowman at WrestleMania.
Oh, Jesus.
And they did this build that I honestly thought was one of the worst things I'd ever seen in my life. Shane was like, and and not just in wrestling. I mean in general. Like Shane was like bullying.
Anything, not even just wrestling.
It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And Shane was like bullying Braun, and he like poured goo over his head, and I was like, this is awful. And then the stadium for WrestleMania was chanting Braun's name and was like cheering him on as he killed his bully, Shane McMahon. And I just sat there and was like, I have to learn, I have to learn from this. These aren't me, these people in that crowd, let me tell you. They are, because they were into it. Do you remember we spoke about this at the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, and look, people can dunk. I'm not saying it was good. There's a difference between commercial success and critical success anyway, so I'm not saying that. However, when Braun Strowman is a perfect example. How many of us wanted him in AEW when he got released? Bless the guy. I'm not trying to knock him, but no one did, right? How over was that dude when he would walk out on Raw every week? They loved him.
There was a period of time where he was super.
Oh, he was red hot, yeah. And
in the feud with
they should have
Roman.
put the title on him.
They should have gone with him. Yeah,
they should have done. I remember being at WrestleMania 34, and again, this is another great example. Just to your point, Joe. And when Nicholas is the tag team partner, I was like fuming, right? Me and my friend were like, we were like, that's shit, innit? We were like, we thought Big Bobby Lashley was gonna, like we were like, who could it be? Weeks of build, and it was a proper WWE finish to a long storyline. But the arena went mental, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, maybe it's just me then, Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great example because I remember I was at that show and I've talked about it before. Changed my life forever. Yeah, I'm going to discuss it before we go. I need to share this memory with Alex because it's funny. This is firstly a positive one. So I'm with you. I thought it was going to be Samoa Joe or Bob Lashley. I was fired up, right? And it was Nicholas. And the next day we were having some dinner somewhere, I forget. And the waitress was fired up. She went to WrestleMania. She'd never watched professional wrestling. And she goes, that Undertaker Cena match was incredible. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, it was
fucking weren't.
Yeah, that was my fault. And she goes, but the best moment of the night when that Nicholas kid came through and won the tag. And you have no choice but to kind of sit there and go, maybe, there's someone out there and there you go. However, and I'm really intrigued if Alex remembers it the way I do, because Jeremy knows this is one of my darkest memories, WrestleMania 34.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar beat Roman Reigns to just apathy. Everyone just sat there. And I, for some reason in my head, remember walking out of there and it was raining and everyone looked like they'd just left a funeral. Am I imagining this, or is that the most miserable experience you've ever experienced?
Everyone was fuming, but also exhausted. They were just like,
so long.
I just don't have the will to be, walking out. It was not like the great climax of WrestleMania that you would hope for. No wonder Brock was fuming. Like the atmosphere, you were spot on. It was awful. Yeah. It was awful.
I mean, it swung with. I've said this before, but it's always funny to me. I remember I had 2% battery on my phone. I went on Twitter and someone this was after the Nia won the title, right? And someone tweeted, "We've got through all of the stuff that could be bad, We've got left AJ and Shinsuke, a Braun Strowman surprise, and Brock and Roman. This is on track to be one of the greatest WrestleManias ever." And I put my little phone, I locked my phone, it went out of battery, I put it in my pocket. I said, this has turned out okay, hasn't it? And let me tell you, folks, about an hour and a half later, it was not so fun.
It did not. By the way, that's another great example. Nia Jax being bullied by Alexa Bliss, playing into your Braun Strowman, Shane McMahon example, by the way.
At least they're telling a story with that.
Honestly,
someone's bullying, and then the bully gets to come up.
I've said this before, and I'll never forget this. There was a couple in front of us at that WrestleMania, and this woman, she had the Nia Jax shirt on. You remember the very funny Not Like Most Girls shirt that everyone popped there? She was wearing it. She didn't react to anything on the show, and then that match came on. And, look, bless that match. We know, we kind of all just sat there, but it's fine. The match is going on and Nia wins, and she turned to her husband or a partner or whatever, and she goes, she did it. She actually did it. She won the title. And I was
she did it.
And I, you could tell by the way she reacted to everything else that she didn't watch the product front to back, but that was the one story that captivated her for whatever reason. And it's just, that's why I try to have an open mind with this stuff, because you never do know, right? You never do know. Now, I want to stress again, this is not us saying WWE is actually good. there's a lot of metrics to suggest everyone agrees with us that it's bad. So, but it's interesting. We all are a little bit cut and dry with this stuff sometimes. Yeah, Josh is correct. Nia then became a hypocrite and bullied Ronda Rousey. So maybe I should have.
let me do some super chats. We'll do a quick AEW talk because AEW has to go. Yeah,
is that tonight?
Yes.
Yeah. Riley Walker says Punk's top heel champ. This is how far behind we are. Punk is top heel champ could be a big angle now, but they still need MJF and Jungle Boy and Darby to develop in 5 years. And those guys become top guys and world champ. It'll create the new big angle. Yeah, just long-term book some of this stuff. And then Ricardo says, for the big stars in AMAC, all hail. There you go. AEW Winter is coming. Oh, geez, we have more. Sorry, guys. Cody Willis says, if third promotion emerges, who are their 4 pillars? Well, Joseph, the third promotion is going to be the Freddie Prinze Jr. promotion.
Yes.
And
featuring Buddy Matthews, Cain Velasquez, Collie O'Cologne.
Is that who we're booking? We're getting the book. He's going to hire us to book the shows.
And Wyndham.
Get Carly in there.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely doing Wyndham, 100%. Just Bud, Matt, and Wyndham.
I dropped out then when I said Wyndham and my internet went. That was very scary.
That's who the 4 pillars are going to be when Joseph and I have the book.
It's never going to happen, guys. No one's wasting money on another promotion, man. It's over.
AEW Winter is coming real quickly here. We got to talk about it. Who is the big surprise? Alex McCarthy, if they have one. Maybe it's nobody.
Oh God, I don't know. I get the feeling that there is something in the air, but I just don't want to stick my neck out too much.
Coward.
I know.
Say Drew McIntyre.
Are we talking about great workers or? I think if anyone, Bray or Kyle, if anyone, it'd be either of those two, I think. But I don't know. There could be some Ring of Honor shenanigans. Most likely the Briscoe brothers. I don't know.
Joseph, any bold predictions?
I think Brody King is the debut tonight.
Fair.
Ooh.
I could see them doubling up and also doing Kyle O'Reilly. I could see. I think the Briscoes, as I've said on the other 100 shows we've done this week, will be next week. I think they're going to interfere in the FTR Derby Sting match that's going to happen, I assume.
Isn't that in FTR's home?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
there
Carolina.
There you go.
And that would kind of fit the vibe they're going for of them kind of seeking each other out, right? So I think that's what you're going to get there. I think Ant's right too. Owen Details feels likely for tonight.
I think Ant said it earlier. Potential Brett appearance.
Oh, God bless.
With the Own Details.
Oh, wow.
That was not my idea. I think maybe it was AC. It was something with an A. I apologize. It was much earlier in the chat, but somebody definitely mentioned potential Brett appearance as they do Own Details tonight.
That rule. I mean, nobody can complain about that, but someone would. So
hasn't the love for Bret Hart aged magnificently?
It's so great,
so great.
Like Twitter has finally cottoned on. It feels like universally. I mean, Bret was always kind of beloved by a section, but now everyone's like, you know what, Bret Hart was pretty great, wasn't he?
Yes.
I love to see it.
Bret Hart is one of the only things the Brits were correct about. And I say that on a show of 2 Brits, but Alex can concede. I think we get a lot of stuff wrong. We were ahead of the curve on Bret Hart.
Yeah.
The dude was king here, he was king.
Finish for Hangman and Danielson, Alex.
Oh, come on. Well, Hangman retains. You know what? People will hate this, but I wouldn't even be totally shocked if Danielson did something, because it's fucking Danielson. He's quite literally one of the greatest wrestlers ever. But I do think the whole point of putting them together is to cement Hangman and give him an amazing first foe. So I think it ends with, because Danielson's turned it up these past few weeks, become a bit more of a idiot, and I feel like it's gonna end. It's gonna end with I don't know, maybe Hangman getting the victory and getting that handshake off Bryan. I don't know if this is their only match, but if it is, I think Hangman commands he gets some retribution for his boys.
Joseph?
Someone that's closely affiliated with Fightful's brand has been hinting at saying it's going to happen, and I don't want to repeat that, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. So I'm just going to say mute Sean Ross Sapp for the next hour, please. Because,
he muted me on the show today when I tried to like mention it. He's
all
like,
I'm
nope,
saying
don't say
is what he's referencing, and I mean this sincerely, that's why I'm not actually going to say it. It's the kind of thing you want to watch happen in real time rather than having it, so I think you're going to see him wrestle again sometime soon. That's what I'm going to say, okay?
I think that I think Danielson wins, and then the show closes with the Fiend Bray Wyatt showing up because Danielson has never defeated the Fiend Bray Wyatt, and that's his first challenge.
Is that actually true? That seems like tragedy. Someone should change
He
that.
lost the strap match, right? He lost the strap match. He lost. They did a match.
The strap match.
Yeah,
They lost
the strap match.
Yeah.
He lost
They
at the
did a
Rumble.
match. Yeah, they did a match at the other Rumble before
2
WrestleMania 30. I mean, look,
if you're gonna bring him
Bray
in,
ain't done too many singles matches. There's 2 off top of the head that Danielson has lost.
Brian's the guy if you're going to bring him in. Brian had 2 great matches with him. There you go. Just named 2 of them. God bless that man. Seriously, that's a good. I just realized that mask has been on the screen the whole time. Have you just put it back, or has it been there the whole time?
I just put it back.
Okay, good.
During the Wyndham reference.
Okay, good. See, I get confused. I don't know what's going on the screen at any time. There you go.
It's in Alex's corner. It looks like it's just like hanging up on Alex's wall because it almost matches the
Seems
wall
bad.
there.
Seems bad.
Seems bad.
Alex McCarthy, let the people know where they can find you.
Well, I was saying to you, Jeremy, I'm a free agent on YouTube these days, so
I'm trying to sign you.
Exclusive. Listen, I'm up for business. You want if you want the best of the Brits.
We pay a lot to Robert O'Neill is the problem, and maybe we budget cut him. But
That's it. Maybe I'll come on a veteran minimum. I don't know. Yeah. So the final Wrestling Daily with all 4 co-hosts is actually tomorrow. So it is going to be a lot of fun for those who want to stop by. 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm so bad with time zones. 8 p.m. UK. And then, of course, AlexM_Talksport is Twitter. And if you care about the poor stuff I post on Instagram, it's the same for that. And otherwise, you know where it is, talksport.com/wrestling, where you can get all my interviews. So I think that's about it, Jez. I think that's about it.
I'd plug your final Wrestling Daily show, but you're going head to head with us, so yeah.
No, we should just cancel our show.
I couldn't.
What if we do a simulcast? What do we run?
Well, yeah. I mean, but also, I couldn't give a flying fuck if we get numbers. So doesn't matter to me.
We popped the rating when we came on your show.
We did. Yeah. I might do an hour of just saying, go over to Fightful. Go over.
Now I'm intrigued. Is there? Give me a percentage chance for the show being like your version of the Paul Heyman promo. When he went on the air, they're taking us off. Now that would be incredible. Where the other 3 co-hosts just sit there, unfortunately, and just like, wait, hang on, what's going on here?
Yeah, I just mute them and shoot on Ollie Davis for 2 hours. Yeah, that could be a good show.
Alex, legit shout out to you guys and the Wrestling Daily crew, Stephanie, SP3, fuck Louis Dangor, but the whole crew there. You guys have done great work over there, and I appreciate that you've had us on the show before, and I know all of you will be fine. Stephanie will keep talking about AEW. Louis or SP3's already got a gig. You'll keep name dropping Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and fuck Louis Dangor. So.
I mean, this is always an important footnote, to be honest. It is. I did a whole 10-minute bit on my show today of just tweets that he did today. Just today.
That one was incredible, man. The one where he took credit. He did one today, and like 2 different people sent it to me where he goes,
he's a content machine.
He's like, you remember when I said they should use AEW for leverage and everyone laughed at me, and it was like, no one
does. No one does. You've just clearly stated what like everybody knows about negotiation. What do you mean?
He's the worst.
He's young. He's very, very young. People need to remember he's very, very young, folks. Very young.
I love him,
but he's still the worst.
I love him, but I've just given up trying to help him. he doesn't want it. He doesn't want it.
Fair.
Joseph, do you want to plug anything?
Tune in to AEW Dynamite 8 p.m. Eastern time on TNT live from Texas. Subscribe, be a patron at latenightgrin.com. I think we're like 4 patrons away from Bob singing the New Age Outlaws theme.
My God.
If you don't like the content, Bob has said he'll refund you your $1. There are no tiers, so you can just get your $1 back and make Bob sing. That's a good deal with me. Watch the distraction or don't. I don't really care at this point. Yeah, do all that stuff. Don't tweet me. Don't follow me. Bye.
Guys, we'll be back tomorrow. YouTube.com/Fightful for the main show at 3 and then the post show at 4:30. Thank you again, Alex, for doing the show as I bullied you this morning to come on the show.
Anyone else would have got to fuck off. So
yeah, I believe it.
I'm so enamored with you. You're lucky.
I believe it. People just like me. I don't know why. Thank you guys. We'll talk to you guys later on.